you showed us a demonstration of how you preliminarily, I guess, design the action for this character. How much of that comes from sort of like a shared community where you guys sort of start with that information, like you already know how to like sort of make a character move and then build on it specifically for like a specific project like Meet the Robinsons?
It's not just me that's animating the supervising, the bowler hat guy. I had probably a crew of about 4 or 5 people, and certain people were very good at certain things and would excel even beyond me in certain things. So there was one particular guy, his name was Michael Kiley, who was very good at doing any kind of a pratfall. You could take any kind of Buster Keaton film, and this guy could mimic any kind of movement that would actually be helpful for the bowler hat guy. So we definitely had a lot of that. Each animator does bring, even though we have all this groundwork laid out for us, each animator does bring in a specific personality trait, which is his own. It's inevitable. You can't not do that. So.
Well, how tough is it to maintain a certain authorship of a character when you are collaborating with so many people, who are making certain things happen in terms of facial movement and body movement, and at the same time you have people who are sort of supervising you and making sure that all comes out and fits into the movie?
It's the more people you add to it, the tougher it gets. So you can only hope and choose who's adding to it, and sometimes people are pulled out of the equation, and sometimes people are added back in for their qualities. So it's constantly it's like putting a big puzzle together. But certainly, like with the lead character Lewis, he would have had a lot more animators working. It would have been virtually impossible for one animator to ever animate the entire character.
Well, what did you discover from working on this movie that was maybe unique to from previous projects that you've worked on?
Well, for me, this picture is probably the most fun I've had in 25 years of being able to work and be supervising animators on characters, mainly because this character was so multifaceted in his actual personality. So for me, that was a huge learning experience because, like, wow, the things that Steve wanted to have in there were like so much fun and so well thought out that it really makes the character extremely interesting. It's probably the most interesting character I've ever worked on.
Well, given how much he already understood about the character, what surprised you most when you go back to these guys and you're like, hey, come up with some ideas, whether they're pratfalls or whatever, and that you maybe weren't expecting the character to have or do, I guess?
Well, like I said, they're not really surprises because essentially you start to learn what some of these other animators bring to a certain character, and some of them have a natural tendency towards your character, especially if they understand the groundwork of what this character needs to do. There's one particular animator I know who does great kind of hyper acting with the character, if that makes any sense at all. And it's a lot of fun to see him go ahead and have a shot at the character, especially if you give him a shot like that.
Well, how did three-dimensional, I guess, directing and then exhibition, change the process that you normally work?
Well, it didn't change it a whole lot for us, and thankfully so. We were aware of it, and there certainly are a couple of things we had to look out for, But for the most part, there wasn't a lot of, a lot of films in the past, and you go to the rides and the parks and stuff. They do things where the characters reach out and over top of the audience and stuff like that. Hopefully, we didn't do too much of that in this picture because, for me, that can pull you out of the story. And I think that this is such a good, fantastic story that you want to just use the 3D stereoscope as an actual stage to tell your story. So the less you do that, the gimmicky stuff, and the more you just use it as a stage to tell the story, then you have a whole new platform of showing the story.